So, at the risk of people ignoring or leaving some hateful comments or sending some hateful messages to me, I'm still going to make this video because I think it's important. So, one thing I like to first come out and say is that I am a liberal prepper, right? So, holy cow, I know that sometimes makes people's heads explode. Liberal prepper. But the main reason I wanted to make this video is to kind of give you guys a chance to maybe look inside the mind of somebody who is, well, mostly a liberal prepper. One thing I'm not going to do is go into any particular political topics here. I'm going to avoid that particular conversation. That being said, I would like to talk a little bit about, what makes someone who's a liberal be a prepper. How is that even possible? So before I get started, also, truth be told, I'm not what would be considered a hardcore liberal. I'd say, ideologically wise, I'm probably like 65% liberal, 30% like agreeing with Republicans, and like a little dash 5% of agreeing with libertarians. That's how I kind of break down, give or take, roughly. I think it's important to judge each idea politically on its own merit, and assess and think for yourself. Don't just take what somebody says as truth. You need to really investigate the facts. Lots of media nowadays, unfortunately, comes with bias. It's more op-ed than it is presentation of facts and letting you decide what you think. So that's something you have to keep in mind. Also, I'm not what you call a Trump prepper. So I've been at this well before then. This isn't new to me. In fact, this channel was created before he even came on the scene. But I'm not a Trump prepper because these people, I think, unfortunately, really bring out the negative side of the liberal debate. Also, I don't consider other preppers a threat or an enemy based on political ideology. I think really we all need to take a step back and realize that for the most part, Republicans and Democrats, wherever you fall, libertarian, conservative, liberal, whatever, wherever you fall, ultimately, if you're trying to be prepared, that's a good thing. And, we all need to stop attacking each other based on those items and focus on preparing. So what's my background? To gain perspective on my positions and opinions, sometimes that's important to understand maybe a person's experiences to kind of see where they're coming from. So my formal education is in computer science, and I'm a data analyst by day. I know, very typically liberal, right? But I grew up in a rural area in what I call semi-farmland. So there was no cornfields or apple orchards right by where I lived. I lived on a dead-end street with 2 other homes. So I really do appreciate the outdoors. I like doing things myself as well. I prefer to fix a piece of equipment myself than cart it off to a shop and have it fixed. So I like to get hands-on with things. Some of my hobbies are programming and app development on the side. Also, I do some woodworking, and I like gardening, both whether it's vegetable or display gardening with flowers and shrubs. I like doing both. So really a wide range of hobbies and interests that you wouldn't necessarily associate with a liberal. One thing I hear all the time is, doesn't prepping go against being a liberal? Isn't being liberal all about free stuff, while prepping is all about self-reliance? It sounds at the face value that those two ideas would be like two rams butting heads in opposition to each other. They're both forces pushing in the other direction. Ultimately, I kind of disagree. So, the popular saying that I think really would apply here and how I think about things is that you should prepare for the worst, but hope for the best, or strive for the best. So I think in the liberal side, we might have a different ideal of what the best is per se, right? So what's a goal to reach for? Those are things like healthcare for everybody, food for everybody, and so forth. The necessities of life for everybody. I think it's great that we should try to push for that as a society and provide that. But at the same point, I think it's also very realistic to prepare for the case that doesn't happen, i.e. prepare for the worst. So I don't think the ideas necessarily go against each other. They may not be obviously aligned, but if you think about it, it's just striving towards the best, but always being prepared for that not to happen, and for hardship, and take care of yourself if the need ever arises. So, common question we all get asked, I assume at some point, is, why are you preparing? It doesn't matter if you're a liberal or conservative or whatever. If you're prepping, you'll probably get asked that question. For one thing, I don't believe in conspiracy theories. I don't think Obama's a lizard man from another planet. 9/11 wasn't a government operation. Fluoridation of water is not part of some giant communist plot. And the Apollo moon landings, they weren't staged. Really, I'm preparing for what I'd say is nothing in particular. What I'd say is that bad things happen for all types of various reasons. So outside of a few variables such as EMP taking out electronic devices in the grid, does it really matter if something like a pandemic or an economic collapse caused the food shortage? At the end of the day, you need to eat, and if there's not enough food, it doesn't matter why there's not enough food, just that there's not enough food. You all need to eat. That's the reality of it. I think more likely, and things that you should definitely be prepared for, are what I call common but impacting events. Things like, say, snowstorms, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes. At some point, these things happen every year to somebody. These are common events that are going to happen. You can't predict when they're going to happen, but they do happen to people on a regular basis, unfortunately. Do I think some type of massive event's going to happen? Who knows? That's anyone's guess, whether it could be a pandemic or some solar flare or something. I mean, who knows? But the ultimate goal is to be ready, period. And as a liberal, ideally, again, I hope the government does make sure that everybody has the things they need, and we work together as a society to achieve that. But at the end of the day, it is my responsibility to take care of myself, so I need to be ready for that, period. Here's another great one I also hear, unfortunately too frequently. Liberals are invading and ruining prepping. You really should take a step back and reconsider that. You should be happy when somebody else prepares and is getting ready. Even if for just totally selfish reasons, more prepared people is going to be less risk for you. If less people need food or some other essential item because they have it stored, and when there's a shortage, that means there's going to be less chance they're going to try to get that stuff through other means and potentially take it from you or so forth. What I'd say to people out there, the common or the, I'd say more traditional or deeply rooted or longer established prepping community, we aren't the enemy, and there's a whole bunch of threats bigger to you that are real to you than some liberals getting prepared in the event of emergency. So I'd say take a step back and reassess, what really is a bigger threat to you. I think you're going to find that liberals getting prepared isn't the threat that you might think. So I'm expecting this video will get viewed by a bunch of people that are already in the established prepping community that may not be liberal-minded, and I suspect a large majority aren't. So what are your thoughts on this topic? I'd love to read your comments and interact with some of you on this channel. Again, thanks for watching Realistic Prepping, real prepping for real people.